Recording has been started. Just waiting for Facebook to update it so we can see everyone who's watching and get the comments going. But if you're already watching, make sure you're leaving a comment, letting us know if the audio is working and if you can hear me fine. Team, you can hear me, right?
I can hear you. Correct.
All right. Facebook is just being super slow. The funny part is whenever I go back to these videos and I'm looking at them and it's like us just silently waiting.
No, really?
It's already been recording. It's been going live for a little while.
I'm surprised you haven't. They weren't full of JC singing.
Some of them are. It's pretty
Yeah.
fun. But we are live. Just everything's just still trying to get loaded. We have someone watching.
Right.
Probably can close off this chat.
There it is.
Participants and just show our lovely faces. Just gonna wait. Okay, we got some people watching. If you can hear us, if the audio is good, just give us a thumbs up in the comment section. Hey everyone, just let us know if the audio is good. I want to make sure everything's working before we get into this too deeply. Yeah. Oh, I got silence on my phone. Hey, Alex. All right, cool. As we're just waiting to get confirmation that the audio is going, sound is good. Thumbs up. Thank you. Recording is going. So this week, we're shifting gears on how we're doing these live streams a little bit. I know in the past we've been digging into a lot of Genesis stuff, and I do want to get back to that at some point. But I also want to take an opportunity to kind of just dig into the game design stuff a little bit more, force the team to have these conversations, because I think these conversations are good to have, especially for me. I've been doing a lot of game design stuff for a very long time, but Carl, Lionel, I know Lionel, he's been partnering with me on these stuff for since practically the beginning, but taking more of a lead role as a designer has definitely changed things. And then on Carl's end, he's been working on side projects on and off for years, but I think, and Carl, correct me if I'm wrong, Genesis is the first project you've actually seen come to production and have done the full spectrum on everything with, right?
To the best of my knowledge, yes.
Unless you accidentally publish a game that no one knows about, right? You know, people just randomly publish things.
I wouldn't put it past Carl, to be honest.
Exactly.
I've lost my tinfoil hat, right? So people could be reading my thoughts, you know?
Yeah. So this week's topic, we're actually talking about the idea of follow the fun. This was a term I saw in a Reddit post. So I was going through Reddit game design. Someone was asking, what does it mean to follow the fun? And how do you do that as a designer? I think this is really cool because this is something I want the game design team to think about. I'm going to go through some of my stories of times I've had to pivot Genesis to make sure we follow the fun in the game and that the players are enjoying what they're doing. So that's what we're talking about this week. Next week, we're also going to be talking about how do people come up with creative game ideas and concepts. Also talking about how do we do that in Genesis, because Genesis isn't just a game that you make once, you put up on the shelf. You have to keep releasing new sets, and eventually you run out of design space. And how do we make sure that we don't have that as we go forward? Before we dig into things too much, like every week, we're going to be giving away 2 prizes. One of them is going to be done through a trivia question, and the second one is going to be done through a random draw. So to enter the random draw, you just need to leave a comment. So if you're watching, just leave a comment with us. We have Jason and Alex so far. So I'm actually going to just reuse cards from last week, because why rewrite the things? So we'll have Jason and Alex's card already. So as you come, watch us, just leave a comment, and we will be adding you into that draw. This week, we're going to have the trivia question of, so the prizes. So if you are the draw winner, you're going to be getting the Canada Day Zambra Dragon. I want to just double check that they can see that properly. Canada Day Zambra Dragon. It has the Canadian flag. It looks absolutely amazing. You'll get that and 2 booster packs. So be welcome to JLR booster packs. And if you answer the trivia question, all you're getting is the Zama Dragon. But still, awesome prize to get. Let me just change this from that to that view. I like this idea that we're sharing the space a little bit more. So if you want to enter the draw, all you need to do is leave a comment below. And also tell your friends that we're going live. Get them to come watching us because we only have 4 people watching us so far. So if you know anyone who can come join us, let them know that this is happening. But again, to enter the draw, all you need to do is leave a comment. So the trivia question of this week, for people who've been with Genesis for a while, the trivia question is, what was the first promo card made in Genesis and how was it special? What made it unique? So we'll be throwing that question up onto the screen. Give me a second here. Save and publish. So what was the first promo design team question? Hot Wings, yay or nay? Team, are you on? Do you like hot wings? Yes or no?
Oh yeah, I love anything hot. Come on now.
Sometime I'm gonna have to take you up to North of Exile. Last time I went there, I met with Jason, and he got me to try a hot sauce that actually made me cry.
Oh no way.
So yeah, this Jason can handle his heat. So we'll go up there sometime and see which one of us can handle more.
Yeah, I look forward just to meeting him at all in general.
Yeah, it's a beautiful town. So
I'm more into Hot Wheels than Hot Wings, though. So
so no, the first promo was not Sky Storm Dragon. We're going a little bit further back to find that first promo card. Okay, so continuing on. Patreon supporters, thank you so much for everything you've done. July packages have been sent out. If you were picking yours up at a store, I know Atlas and Dragon World, I haven't dropped those off yet. And a few other people who are dropping them off in person. Those should be coming soon. But thank you so much to all our supporters. Austin, Alex, Brad, Brandon, Corey, Cody, Free, Jocelyn, Jordan, Joshua, Kyle, Lionel, Luke, Mackenzie, Pat, Sean, Stan, Steven, Stevo, Taz, Vincent, William. Thank you for everything you've done to get us to where we are now. I hope you're enjoying your Patreon packages. Next month's package is gonna be so dope. We're doing promo Epiphanies and promo Revenge of the Phoenix. Some of the Epiphany is just such a good card. Everyone knows how powerful this card is. Everyone who went to the championship dreads it and loves it at the same time. So you'll be getting 3 promo Epiphanies in your package. And if you're a top tier Patreon supporter, you're going to be getting 2 Revenge of the Phoenix promos. These are going to be absolutely amazing. So if you haven't joined us on Patreon yet, come join us. Get those amazing promos. If Patreon isn't your thing and you want to support us in another way, just message me and we'll work something out. I know some people, they're not comfortable signing directly to Patreon. That's okay. Just let me know and we'll work something out. As always, come join us on Discord to continue the conversation. And we'll love to have you there. And we do have a town hall meeting this Monday. It's just a general open discussion. If you want to talk about anything related to the game, if you want to bring up your concerns, your comments, your questions, come to that town hall, join the conversation. And last town hall, the community made solid changes to the rule books, adding in a new speed level and deciding how sideboards are going to go. It was the community's decision, not ours. So I want you to get involved. If you want to see changes in the game, the town hall meetings are the way to do it. All right, let's see if anyone has... No, it wasn't Oni. We'll give out more clues after in a little bit, but so far no one has figured out the trivia question. Okay, let's jump into today's question. So today's topic is about follow the fun. What does this mean? And how do we apply it as game designers? So I'm going to give my perspective on what it means. I'd love the game designers to give their perspective. But when I think of someone saying follow the fun, when it comes to designing a game, you have your own perspective, especially as the person who created the game. You have your own perspective on how you think the game should be played and what is the most enjoyable aspects about the game. But sometimes that's not always the case, especially as you go into testing, as you go to launch, as you release more and more content related to that game. Your perception on how the game is played versus how people want to play it, that starts changing things. So trying to figure out what the fun is to the players, and following down that pathway, that's my perspective on what this phrase means. Lionel, Carl, do you have any other viewpoints on that? I'd love for you to come and contradict me, or what do you think about it?
Well, it's a very abstract sort of thing, right? And very subjective even too. But I think for me personally, what I like to do is I like to take a reversed approach, right? So if people are having lots of fun playing a certain type of deck that can destroy their opponent, then I'm going to try and design cards that are going to counter that, so that the other person that's not having fun can have fun. Does that make sense?
Okay. So
you look a little confused.
Sorry, reiterate that. So you like to play in such a way that you're doing things to add fun to the game.
Well, yes, but to counter, so if someone comes up with a system that is lots of fun to play, like say an angel deck or an OTK deck or whatever, and they're having fun, right? But their opponent's getting crushed, they're not having so much fun. So they're going to need cards that can elevate them so that they can counter that deck, right? So how the meta, when we see where the meta's going, then I like to kind of take a step back and say, okay, well, this person's on the receiving end is not going to be having as much fun. So I want to give them an opportunity that they can then have the counter to that. It won't always work, but does that make sense?
Yeah. Lionel, what do you think when you think about follow the fun? When you think about fun in game design, what comes to your mind?
So what first thing that comes to mind is that at its core, a game has to be fun. Otherwise, why would you play it if you're not having fun? So this whole idea of following the fun, I think it's more or less if the fun portion of it comes to light, like throughout through the development or whatever process you're in, the fun part of it comes to light, you have to follow that and emphasize it in your game so that people are experiencing it while they play. So this whole idea of following the fun is to let yourself not really abandon, but set aside your predisposed notions of what the game should be to have this whole enjoyable aspect of the game come to light. Yeah, so that's what it means to me. Don't know if that's kind of reiterating what you're saying, but yeah.
Kyle left a comment saying this is the innate challenge of balancing the game. I think it's very true. Like a lot of times there's very technical stuff that I wanted to add into the game, but it just wasn't fun, or it's too much to remember. And having all these complexity in the game for some players is very fun. For other players, really isn't. And figuring out where to cut and where to add things. Something I want to throw to Carl, coming from, I know that a lot of what you design is about your perspective on what you think is fun in the game. So is there any cards or anything that you've created that has reinforced something that you thought was really fun about Genesis?
Something that is reinforced. Oh boy. Just trying to think. Drawing a blank as to what cards I have. Let's see. I mean, so the latest set that is coming out, can we talk about any of those cards, or is that still
in Rays?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can talk about Rays.
So I think a couple of the summons that I've put into the set, in particular the Archon of Vigor and the Celestial Hegemon, completely different. What they do in the game is completely different, but for two completely different play styles, they're totally going to add fun. Like for a summoner to have the Archon of Vigor in their army, and for someone that just likes to be annoying and have something that is going to be really hard to kill and hard to deal with, like the Hegemon. So yeah, that will those two will totally add fun to the game.
Yeah.
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 And I think those cards, like specifically, it tailors to their own type of players. So like for me, I like those big creatures, and like the hegemon will definitely emphasize that. So,
Yeah. I know for like JC, it's always great. It's one of the things we laugh about and enjoy. But whenever he starts playing Baruch, it's hilarious. Just kind of his reactions, his energy, and that's one of those things I love. I like as a designer, I love those kind of moments where people are giddy
Mhm.
and excited and do silly things. That's why some of my favorite cards are things like Shadow's Grasp or Lambs to the
Mhm.
Slaughter, where all of a sudden you're playing a multiplayer game and someone does something absurd, and you're like, no, I'm going to grab you and pull you over here. So now you're doing this over there. And
Yeah, for sure.
one of my favorite moments, one of the things I try to recreate a lot is the first time the four of us opened up packs for Welcome to J. Lara, and we did a seal tournament, the game designers. And I think it was Carl or JC was on one end of the board and dropped a meteorite on three of us. And I tried to jump out, but as I smoke bombed out, someone else rampage tossed me back into the meteorite.
Yeah.
I had to like, and it
I
was
think
just
that
like
was
this
me.
absurd moment of like
Yeah.
this giant meteorites falling on your head. You're terrified. You're
Yeah.
trying to get out. Other people are like, no, if I'm getting hit, you're getting hit with me.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And I think that you brought up one of my most fun cards, the Rampage Toss. But moments like that really emphasize how enjoyable I find the game. So,
Yeah. And I know that like I design cards specifically around that.
mhm.
Is there anything, Lionel, that you can think of when it comes to like your design space that you design around? Uh,
Yeah, the thing that comes to mind, I mentioned this before that I want to make combat more dynamic. So interesting triggers like the toss or stun. I take pride in this card that I made, but High Dualis.
yeah,
The amount of options that it gives you, and like it's just a lot of fun in my mind. There's a lot of cool things you can do with cards like that. So when I design, I try to think about, will this card actually be enjoyable to play? And then if it's not, then I move on to the next idea.
yeah.
So
Um, all right. I know that people are still kind of stuck on the trivia question. I'll give you one hint. It it was a very popular Thymus card when the game came out. Very popular Thymus card when the game came out. Again, if you're watching and you want to enter into a random draw to win yourself 2 booster packs and a Canadian Days Amber Dragon, let's get that a little bit closer to the camera. Just leave a comment below. So I currently have Kyle, Jason, and Alex as part of this draw. So if you're watching, all you need to do is just say hi, and you'll get yourself a chance to win that Amber Dragon and 2 boost packs. Now I want to throw it the other way. Carl, just so you know, you're muted. But yep, Alex, it was Giant Scorpion. Do you know why the Giant Scorpion first promo was different compared to its booster pack version? Like, what was special about it? But the other way around, has there been a moment where you've been watching people play Genesis and they did something that was really fun, or something that wasn't expected, that you then were like, okay, let's make more things of this?
I don't think that has actually
Hmm.
come into play. Well, maybe watching someone, stomp around with half a dozen angels on the board. I decided to come up with the idea for weighted net, which then they lose their flight and aerial and they're grounded. So then anything can hit them, right? So it doesn't actually destroy them right away, but it gives you a chance to deal with them, right?
Yeah.
Because if you don't have anything that can deal with flight and aerial, you might as well just concede, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, that one.
I think that kind of comes back to that idea of always have options. Like
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that can make the game not fun is when all of a sudden you just don't have a way to deal with something, and then instead of following the fun, you hit a brick wall, and you're just stuck there, losing every game. Yeah. What do you think, Lionel?
Specifically about, sorry, we're reiterating on which point?
Has there been a moment where you're playing with someone and they do something really cool and you're like, I want more of that in the game. I want to make more fun opportunities like this.
That's an interesting one. I think one of the ones that come to mind is decoy. Either like mainly through Chrono Walker. But I remember being able, like one of my opponents, I don't remember who it was, but they moved forward and then they decoyed and then they moved again and then they decoyed and then they were able to continuously play spells because they were in a spot where they weren't. So the reason why I bring that up is just this being in another spot that they weren't before. So if that makes sense, it's kind of just rambling right now.
Yeah. Like I think what you're like what I really enjoy about moments like that is being able to capitalize on the tactics element of the game, saying okay, is there a clever way for me to get from point A to point B with and still be able to do what I want to do? Because I've had moments where I've decoyed through walls to be able to tsunami at a really key point.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the manipulation of the tactics element, I think, is something that's really fun. Rampage Sauce, we talked about, Lamps to Slaughter, Sadistic Illusion, which is going to be coming out in the next set, is another card that I think is just super fun, super silly. And I also love like really ridiculous multiplayer things where someone goes to do something and another person interjects and a third person interjects.
There was a time, sorry if I'm interrupting you, but there's a time where I believe we were playing a 3-player game with you and I believe it was JC, but you move forward and like you shadows grasp them in the middle of my creature and the summon.
Yeah.
So my champion, those moments are a lot of fun.
Yeah. And I think that's something that a lot of people love is the fact that Genesis it's not just that it has the tactics element, it's that the tactics element is such a relevant part of the game. You cannot do well in this game ignoring the tactics element of it. So yeah, and just as a kind of a back history, Genesis, I think the early versions of it, and one of the reasons why I got to where it was this idea of following the fun. When the game was first created, the tactics element was there, but it wasn't as heavily enforced as it is now. And we saw that when we started launching alpha and beta. And I remember talking to the team and telling them that moving forward, because we had cards like Defensive Practice, Air Shield, Meteorite, and it just wasn't bounded by an awareness. And now we try our best to bind everything to awareness. And I think that adds to a lot of fun to the game. And then one thing that I hear a lot from players is the fact that direction actually matters. Coming in from the flank or coming in from behind actually matters in this game. How does that impact the way you see designing cards? Do you find this limiting, or do you enjoy this part of it?
I enjoy this part of it. Yeah, the challenge of it. Like I was just, when you were talking there, I was just remembering that very first game where you demoed the game to me at SkyCon. And I think we might have each had 3 hunting hounds or something like that, or maybe an elemental or 2. And just seeing that, well, not only the tactics and using the board, but also how many turns you have, right? With the creatures that you have out. And so the challenge of designing for armies, but then there's also the fighters that don't necessarily want a whole army. How are they going to deal with that? What cards do they need to make that style of play fun, right? So that that's a challenge for sure, and I certainly enjoy trying to meet that challenge, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with Carl on this one. Finding and meeting that challenge is definitely enjoyable, and it's definitely a cool part of the thing. But the tactics element adds to the following that part of the game adds to the fun because it really rewards players once they're able to hit that flank, or if they're able to hit somebody from the side and successfully do your damage. And a part of going through the design of the game is that a lot of the cards do not hit your back. So because of that, it gives a sense of reward for the player who's able to do that.
Yeah.
And at the same time, there are other cards that make combat or whatever the scenario is more dynamic because you might be able to move so that they're no longer in the back, or rotate so that you can get rid of that advantage from the opponent. So it's this whole back and forth. And it allows us as designers to give players opportunities to get out of the scenarios, but also reward them for being able to get the person into that scenario. So
Yeah. I was actually thinking about how Alpha was a very interesting launch. So for people who don't know, when we first launched Alpha, all we had was the starter kits, which had 4 of the 8 champions. So you had Idris Malik, Raha Nubia, and you had a bunch of commons and uncommons. There were no rares. And at that time, I think the only cards that existed but weren't part of the starter kit was Death's Companion, Giant Scorpion, and Angel Retribution. But Angel Retribution, there were only like a few copies of them. So that barely counts. But Death's Companion and Giant Scorpion.
The Chaos Thymus Primordial Force.
Did Primordial Force exist at that time? I'm not 100% sure if it did.
Okay.
As in, like, it was in rotation. People had it on the day of SkyCon launch. Because remember when we launched SkyCon, we gave everyone those booster packs, which had random cards in them.
Yeah.
So those had Death's Companion in it.
Yeah.
And then I gave a promo Giant Scorpion to everyone who bought a copy. And then one guy, he actually bought his copy and right away made a deck to challenge me. And for beating me, I ended up giving him an Angel. So those existed. But the fact that was, since we got to launch the game at first and see what people liked and disliked, we actually changed a lot of the cards we were originally planning to launch for Alpha. We changed them in favor of things that people like playing with. Yeah, it's kind of cool seeing how the players, watching them play the game, watching them play in the tournaments, that has impacted our decisions of what we design. So yeah, I think this is a really cool concept. It's something that I think as game designers, we got to keep that in mind. What do people find fun? This might be something that I think that defines what our 5 pillars are, actually. Our 5 pillars are all about reinforcing what the players find as fun or like critical about the game. So yeah,
it'll be interesting to see once this next set comes out and there's more cards that give weaknesses and have elemental types, branding, all that kind of stuff. It'll be interesting to see how that affects gameplay, deck design.
And I also think it's going to be really interesting seeing when we get to a point that players are more vocal on what they want to see in the game and what ideas they like, dislike, and want us to stay away from.
Or they could even make up an entire document of cards that they've made up.
Yeah. Just nudging at someone right there. As of right now, if you want to enter the draw for the Primordial, we only have 4 people in so far: Alex, Kyle, Jason, and Cody. I love you. My wife's there in the comments, but she's not eligible for this. So if you are watching and you want to join for a random draw, we'll be announcing that soon. And just to wrap up the trivia question, yes, Alex, you were right. But what I wanted to point out was, let's see if I can find my Alpha Giant Scorpion. The promo Giant Scorpion was the first time we released a card with alternate art. So for people who haven't seen, this is how Giant Scorpion looked when it was first launched. This was the booster pack artwork for Giant Scorpion. So the giant scorpion we saw at SkyCon was an alternate art, and it was kind of cool having that alternate art, also having flavor text on it, because the booster pack version didn't have flavor text on it. But yes, Alex, we'll be giving you the Zamber Dragon along with the booster packs for the trivia question. And then just some announcements as we wrap up this live stream today. Again, as always, as stores are moving, more and more stores are moving towards phase 2, and COVID is, not at the forefront of the conversation as much. That doesn't mean it's gone away. Please make sure you're following the store's instructions. If they do not have a play space, do not try to play out there. If they require you to wash your hands, sanitize, do those things. Make sure you are making the space as comfortable as you can, not just for yourself, but for everyone else at the store, and especially the store owners, the employees, because they are putting themselves at the front line so that you can have the best experience you can at your hobby shops. So whatever rules, guidelines that they have, make sure you're adhering to those. Not every store is allowing for gaming. So if they're not, don't risk it. Don't question it. Make sure you are respecting the space you're in. And as JC reminds me regularly, if you cannot wear a mask, if you cannot use hand sanitizer for one reason or another, think about online ordering. Think about contactless pickup. Just respect those stores. Again, huge shout out to Goblin Credible and the show he does. Yesterday, Lionel was on his show, and it was really great watching him play. And it was super psyched to see Jake show up on the show. Jake's a great guy. He's done a lot of the music for Genesis. And once I have a new, more powerful computer, we'll be making sure we're premiering a lot of his music on our live streams. For everyone who's following, the Android app has launched. There was a bug, but a patch has been released. I was able to update it on my phone. If you haven't got the new Android app, download it. It is gorgeous. Free did such an amazing job on it. It has all 12 champions. Yeah, it's super, super, super slick. And race spoilers are continuing to go on. Make sure you're following us on Facebook. We are trying to use Reddit. We're trying to use Twitter a little bit more. Discord, everything. Follow us one way or another. And check out the Genesis website for more spoilers, more information about race. We'll have some big information coming out in the next week or two. So that's a big thing. If you have a topic you want us to cover in one of these live streams, let us know, and we will try our best to cover those as soon as possible. As always, join the conversation on Discord, and let's get off to doing the draw winner. Do we get a drum roll? Can anyone do a drum roll?
Where's JC when you need him?
Yeah, I'm not doing a great job. Hey.
All right. And the winner is, here's my file, Jason.
Thanks.
Nice. So Jason, I'll be sending you your Zamber Dragon and 2 boost packs. Those are your winnings. Thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you again to all of our Patreon supporters. You have been amazing. You've got us so far in everything we do, and we're just infinitely grateful. Next week's topic, we are going to be talking about how do we come up with creative ideas for Genesis, what resources we use, how we do our research. I think this is going to be really cool for a lot of game designers. Really good behind the scenes of how much time goes into making a card, because even a simple 1/1 rat could take, a week of design time. So it's going to be a really cool conversation to have. Thank you everyone for joining us, and we will see you next week. Bye for now.
Bye.
And stopping record.